Hey everybody, welcome to my grow room. It is March 25th today, and I'm seed starting today. I'm seed starting tomatoes. Last year in 2020, I started all my seeds on April 2nd. Yep. So I'm starting them about a week earlier this year. There's no particular reason why I'm starting them earlier. I just know that last season, when the tomatoes started getting ripe enough and they were in their cups, I sold them in solo cups. When they were in these cups, when I started selling them last year, they were a little bit on the big side. And I would rather get them grown well enough and established and fertilized and fed for the customers to get them and purchase them a little sooner. Then getting closer to my plant date, which is the date I like to plant things, is like mid-May, then I would be having more time to plant my garden. Last year, I actually planted my garden in the middle of the night because that's the only time that I actually had to plant my garden because I had so many people buying plants. So this year, I'm gonna change my plant sale a little bit different this year. And then I'm also gonna start a lot of tomatoes this year. So some of the things that I do for seed starting tomatoes is I use the same grow medium that I used for everything, which is peat, perlite, and vermiculite. I have a video in my YouTube channel on how to make that seed starting mix. I also use 3 different types of containers. Now last year, I have a video in my YouTube channel how I started all my tomatoes in containers like this. One would think that this is a rotisserie chicken tray. To me, this is a tomato seed starting tray. The reason being, it has holes in the bottom and it has a drip tray. You fill this with the medium, you put it in the drip tray, and you sprinkle your seeds on the top. And then this little forest of tomato plants pop up. And I put 1 variety of tomato per container. And then when it comes time to stepping them up, which is putting them into the bigger cups, you have a whole batch of the same variety that you can peel apart and then stick in their own individual cups and grow them. So I've grown them in these before. The dollar store had these cute containers this year. I drilled holes in the bottom of all of these, and it's got a humidity dome, which is nice. Tomatoes don't necessarily need a humidity dome, but at least it has one. Look at that. That's going to grow little tomatoes in there too. And then I'm also, since I'm starting so many tomatoes this year, the step up process when I grow tomatoes, it's very time consuming. Because if I sprinkle a whole seed packet in this container, it's about 30 to 50 seeds per little container like this. I have to individually separate those and put them into their own individual cups. So this year, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to start them in seed trays, just like this. This is a 72 cell seed tray. It's got a drip tray, and there's 72 holes in here. I'm going to put 2 tomatoes per cell in this. And then when they get to their second set of true leaves, and they're about 2 inches tall, I'll pull them out, I'll separate the 2 that are in one of those and put them in 2 individual solo cups. So each one of these, which is 72 cells, will have 2 tomato seeds in it. We'll make 140 tomato plants. So that is what my goal is. That will save space under the grow lights for me until we seed start. So that's what I'm going to do today. So I just basically want to show you how I fill these seed trays and these little buckets. So let's show you how do we do that. All right, can you see me? I'm right here. This is my seed starting mix. I have this mixed up in a big, huge tub because I do a lot of seed starting. So in order for me to be productive and work fast, this is how I have to do it. This again is peat, perlite, and vermiculite. I also, it kind of dried out a little bit, which is fine. I just took my hose and watered this down a little bit because I don't want this to be light and fluffy when I'm putting it in my trays. The reason being is if I put it in my tray light and fluffy, then I'm going to have to water it a lot. And I'm not in a greenhouse where I can just spray the tops of these trays and let them drip and then spray them again and let them drip. So I actually have to moisten this seed starting mix to the point where it dribbles just a couple drops of water when I squeeze it, so that it packs into these cells in the tray deeply enough and tightly enough so that there's no air pockets. Now I'm going to start with the tray, which is right here. And I have the drip tray on the bottom. And I just literally stick this in there. And I just start throwing soil on the top. And I go through and I just kind of lightly mush it around. You're basically trying to just fill all those holes. Just like that. I kind of pack it in there, push it in. And then once I think I got it all filled up, just like that, I take my fingers and I tap it down. And you notice, even though it looks full, it wasn't. I'm pushing down into these holes halfway down. So that soil, even though it's moistened, it's still very light and fluffy, which is what you want for a grow start soil. So I'm just sticking my fingers in these holes, and then I'm just going to do this again. Just like that. So now I know that there's no air pockets in any of these cells, and they're nice and full. So that is how I start my trays. Now, in order to start the rotisserie chicken tray, pretty much the same thing, but all I have to do is fill one. So I'm just going to lightly put this in there and pack it down. I'm smashing it in there pretty hard. And just keep it nice and level. There. Nice and simple. Just like that. And I'm just leaving a little bit on the top because I will water it. And I don't want it to overflow. So that's how I do the rotisserie chicken. And again, I have it packed in. And then this is the little dollar store one. Same thing. Just fill it up and pack it down. That's too much. These are a little cheaper and flimsier, but it really does not matter because this is a temporary housing unit that we're going to use for these tomato seeds for the next month. I think last year I planted all my tomato seeds on April 2nd, and I stepped them up into solo cups on the 4th of April, or on the 4th of May. So just over a month. It went from this container to something like this. All right, we are back. I just wanted to share with you the tomato varieties that I'm starting this year. I have Aunt Molly's ground cherries. I have large red cherry tomatoes. I won't be planting that many. I just have all my tomato seeds that I'm starting this year in here. Triple crop from Urban Farmer. I have celebrity tomatoes. I have pineapple tomatoes, husky cherry tomatoes, Roma. This is the sunburst tomato, which is a yellow tomato. Tomatillos, the pineapple ground cherries. Did I say Aunt Molly ground cherries already? More Romas. Kellogg's breakfast. Amish paste, which is another type of paste tomato like the Roma tomato. The Abe Lincoln, that was one of my favorites that I grew in my garden last year. Big Rainbow. This is the Black Crim. I have never grown that one. I'm excited to grow that one. These are some seeds that a friend gave me from the thrift store. They were heirloom tomato seeds from Italy, and they were 15 years old, and they germinated and produced fantastic in my garden last year. These are called yellow pear tomatoes. These are a cherry tomato. Delicious tomatoes. That's just a beefsteak. Pretty decent. Big Rainbow. Big rainbow Nebraska Wedding. I've never grown Nebraska Wedding. Brandywine. San Marzano, that's another paste style tomato. Paste tomatoes, if you're unfamiliar with tomato varieties, a paste tomato is going to be more meatier in your tomato, and so it's going to be better for cooking like your tomato sauces, your tomato pastes, your spaghetti sauces, because it's more thick with meat than it is with juice like a Brandywine would be. So that's why people grow a lot of the Roma varieties, the San Marzanos, the Amish paste. This is called a stellar tomato. I've never grown that before. A defiant tomato. This is a determinate variety. So is this bush steak hybrid. These are determinate varieties. That just means there's two types of tomatoes. There's a determinate variety and there's an indeterminate variety. The determinate variety, it's created to determine the size that that tomato is going to get. It's going to get to a certain height. It's going to set all your flowers. All the fruit is going to arrive at one time. It's all going to ripen within the same 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then it's going to be done for the season. And we never know really when that's going to happen. On a determinate variety, this says 70 days. So if I put this in the ground in the middle of May, around Mother's Day, which I plan to, then 70 days after that should be the time that I'm going to get the fruit from this determinate variety. Now, an indeterminate variety is going to give you a tomato that is going to produce flowers and fruit until the frost kills it. So that's why a lot of people like indeterminate varieties, because they'll give you fruit as long as the summer will allow. Determinate varieties are for mostly people that like to produce their food or process their food. They like to can their food. And if they get a big boom of tomatoes all at one time, 70 days after they plant a couple of these tomatoes, they can process a bunch of tomato sauces and paste right away and be done with it. So that's why some people like the determinate varieties. Determinate varieties are also good for container planting. A mortgage lifter tomato, another Abe Lincoln. Jetstar, I've never grown a Jetstar tomato. Paul Robeson, I have grown that one. That's a Paul Robeson. I don't know why I have so many of those. This is another determinate variety. It's called a Bush Goliath. So anytime you're buying a seed for a tomato and it says the word bush, it is pretty much guaranteed it's going to be a determinate variety. I just purchased these from Wild Boar Farms. They're called a Solar Flare. That's a yellow tomato with some orange streaks in it. And then Cherokee Purple. Oh, and another Black Creme. So a lot of these seed packets obviously were the same seed packet that I had mentioned once before, but there's about 5 or 6 varieties in here that I did not get to grow last year, and now I have them. So I am going to seed start some of these. So what I will do is show you how I plant one of these containers. So I just take my tomato. This is the Roma. Where's the rest of those Romas? And what I'm going to do first, because I always forget to do that, is mark my marker. These are blinds, extra plastic blinds that I had for some blinds that were broken. I have a video on how to take off your extra blinds if you don't want to destroy a whole set of blinds, but I think they work very well. So I'm going to write on here Roma tomato. I'm writing the date, which is 3/26. And it is a Roma VF. I'm going to stick that stick right in here. And I have a seed packet that was already used. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it. I got this tape. It's like a tape that will go on your package, and then it will come off without ripping up your seed packet. It's in the craft section at the I'm trying to show you, and it's not even on camera. This tape here, this striped tape, it's in the crafts section at the Hobby Lobby. And you can put it on here and peel it off, and it doesn't ruin your seed packet. Sorry about that. I'm trying to be very careful not to spill the seeds over all of this because I don't want to mix up the tomatoes. So that's how small seeds are. Let's see if you can get them focused. There's a lot in there. That's a lot of seeds. Each one of these seeds grows one tomato plant. It still blows my mind. I've been gardening for over 3 years, and that still is something that truly blows my mind. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle them in here. Just like that. Then I'm going to take a little scoop of the seed starting mix and just sprinkle it on the top. I do this with cluster planting. I will not do that in this seed tray, because what I'm going to do is I'll drop 2 seeds in each one of these trays, and I'll just kind of push them in with my finger and kind of mix the soil around a little bit. But this is how I do what I consider called cluster planting. Tap it down, just like that. Do I have a water bottle around here? Here it is. There we go. In order for seeds to germinate, they need light, water, and heat. So you can't let these dry out. That's detrimental to the seedlings. But that is how you start tomato seeds, just like that. So this is ready to go underneath a grow light, and it is going to take, let's read, how many days to germination? It does not say. Most seed packets will tell you how many days to, oh, there it is. I'm sorry, 7 to 10 days for seedlings to germinate. Then 70 days to harvest. Start indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. So that's how you do it. So I just wanted to share that stuff with you today here in my grow room. So that's how I'm going to start tomato seeds. And I'm going to go ahead and start the other trays right now with more tomato seeds and grow all these tomatoes for my seed sale, as well as for the 4 gardens that we're dealing with this year. So thank you very much for coming to my grow room today. Seed starting tomatoes. I'll do a follow-up video in about a week to show you the emerging little babies that are having all their birthdays when the tomato seeds pop up. So thanks so much for watching today. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and God bless.